Hi, it's Doug. When I was a kid, about your age, there was this forest near where I lived. I loved to go exploring in the forest. I'd spend hours out there, and I'd always find interesting things. Like one time, I saw a baby owl up in a tree. Sometimes I would see deer out there. There was always something new to find. One animal I really hoped I would find was a frog. I love frogs. Even to this day, they're one of my favorite animals. My dad knew this about me, and so one day in the spring, my dad said to me, "You know, Doug, it's springtime. Did you know there's a place in the forest where we can find some tadpoles? Baby frogs, like these." My dad said, "Yeah, you could catch a few, raise them here at home in a fish tank, and then release them back into the forest when they grow into frogs." I was so excited. Could we really do that? Where would we find them? So my dad took me on a hike back into the forest, but this time to a part of the forest I hadn't explored yet. I could see that up ahead of us was this water. Maybe it was a pond, maybe it was a lake. I couldn't tell. As we got closer, my dad helped me carefully get close to the edge of the water and dip a little plastic bottle in to try to catch some of the tadpoles in it. But I accidentally dropped the bottle in the water. Oh no. "Well, that's okay," I said. "I think I can get it back out of the water again using a stick." But as I went to do that, that's when I realized the plastic bottle was moving. In just a few seconds, it had floated a few feet down from me. I had to run after it. Finally, I caught it. But that's when I had noticed for the first time the bottle had moved because the water in this place was moving. I hadn't even noticed that before. I said to my dad, "Dad, why is the water doing that? It's moving." Now, I already knew that in some places the water moves. Like, I'd seen waves at the ocean before. Waves are water that rise up, go down, and crash against the shore. But this movement wasn't like waves. Instead, this movement was in a line, moving constantly from one place to another place further down. It wasn't crashing against the shore. It was going from here down this way. It was flowing. My dad smiled and said, "Doug, that's a river. That's what a river does. A river flows." In fact, people love to float down rivers. Sometimes in the summer when it's nice and warm, people will put inflatable tubes in and sit on them and then just float down the river, just for fun. I thought about this some and said, "Wow, so does that mean if you put a boat in there, you wouldn't even have to paddle?" My dad explained, "That's right, you wouldn't have to. As long as you're okay going the same direction that the river flows, the river will just carry you like a train. That's what rivers do." But why? What makes the water move like this? What causes a river to flow? Why does a river flow? Why does the water move constantly from one place to another? You could probably think of a few different ideas. For example, maybe it's the wind. Like imagine if the wind blew across the surface of the water, pushing it along. That seems like it could explain why the water moves. But if you come back and observe any river day after day, you will find out, even on a calm day with no wind, the river still flows. It flows all the time, constantly. Wind and no wind, day and night, it doesn't matter. Well, could there be something pushing the water? You know, like if you have your hand in the water and you push on it, that makes the water move. So couldn't something be in the river pushing on it to make it flow? But if you go look, there's not anything you'd see in the water. Just looking at the river itself doesn't make it obvious why a river flows. So let's gather more information about rivers. Maybe like if we could look at rivers from above, like with a map. This is North America. Let me show you where some of the rivers are now. Let's compare these rivers with each other and see if rivers have anything in common. We call that looking for patterns. Just to be extra helpful, I've included arrows to show which direction the rivers flow. Have a look and discuss. Do rivers have anything in common which could help you figure out why they flow? Now here's a hint. Take this river, for example. Since rivers flow from one place to another, look at where each river starts and where each river ends. Do all the rivers have anything in common? Can you find any patterns?
So here's a map showing real rivers in North America. Do the starting points of the rivers have anything in common? What about where they end? Let's take a look. I see arrows. They're all leading to the ocean. Isn't that interesting? Oh, they all end in the ocean. Well, where do they begin? Let's discuss.
Did you notice the pattern of where the rivers go? Well, let's see. This river, right here on the map, flows out towards the ocean. So does this one. And this one here, it's the largest river in North America, the Mississippi River. It flows out to this water here, the Gulf of Mexico, which is ocean water. It's salty and is connected to the Atlantic Ocean. And if you keep going and look at all the rivers on the map, you'll see that all major rivers flow towards an ocean. Whoa, think about that. That means that if you took an inner tube and found a big river near you to float down, even if you live nowhere near an ocean, you would eventually get to the ocean. It might take days, but you'd get there. That is so cool. Okay, so rivers end at oceans. But where do rivers start? Did you notice any pattern to where they start? Well, let's look. Here's where one starts, and here, and here. It doesn't seem like there's any pattern. Rivers start all over the map. Hey, but wait a second. This map is flat. You know the real world isn't actually all smooth and flat like this. At least not everywhere. There are some flat, low places on Earth, like this. They're called plains. But there are also high parts, like hills and mountains. So if we create a map that's more like the real world, a map that shows hills and mountains on it, could that help us solve this question of what makes rivers flow?